Chancellor, here we are in a department store, and a lot of people will be looking and wondering how safe it is to get out there. You're probably looking at the economy and working out, is it going to restart when you press the button? What's your sense of that particular question?
Well, we set out a plan some weeks ago for reopening our country slowly, getting our economy going, and we're executing to that plan. And the next stage of that plan is that we're able to open retail shops like this from next week, and we can do that because we set out 5 tests and we're meeting those 5 tests thanks to everyone's hard work, and I think that's a good thing. So yes, we will get going again and we slowly start to get our lives back to normal, but it won't be the same. As we've been walking around this department store today, you've seen all the changes, the signs, the escalators, the screens, so people can come back to stores like this and shop in confidence, knowing that it is safe for them and their families, safe for the staff, and I think that's a very important first step. But these are deliberate, these are measured, and these are careful steps.
And why does that matter for the economy? Why does it matter for unemployment? Why does it matter for our livelihoods as we're coming out of lockdown?
Well, I think we all want a healthy country. We want to be able to, yes, go back to work, to the jobs that we love, but we also want to see our friends, our families, get our lives back to normal. And this lockdown, in many ways, has had lots of different costs. It's been necessary, but people have not been able to go and get the healthcare treatment that they need. Children have not been at schools. People are suffering from increased mental health or isolation. And yes, people, as you pointed out, are losing their jobs, and that's going to have an impact not just on their financial security, but on their long-term health as well. So I think, it is important now that we take our steps to rebuild our lives, but do so in a careful and measured way. And that's what we're here today to see.
And if we're not able to open up all the shops, open up all the pubs, open up all the hospitality, what are the consequences?
Well, if you're asking are there going to be severe consequences from this lockdown, then the answer is yes, and I've been very clear about that. It is going to have an impact on people's jobs and their livelihoods. That weighs very heavily.
And we need to prepare for that, for higher unemployment.
Well, I think first of all we should look at what we've done, and that's why I put in place the furlough scheme, which is now covering almost 9 million people. That's protected millions of jobs through this crisis, which is why it was so important. But looking forward, yes, there is going to be hardship ahead, but I want people to know that I will do absolutely everything I can to make sure they have the skills, the tools and the support they need to get back into hopefully an even better job as quickly as possible.
You talk about a plan. Are you happy with the way that plan has unfolded, with what has happened in the UK over the course of the past few months and the government's part in it?
Yes, I'm proud of what we've done. Obviously, we were faced with an unprecedented crisis.
Even though we have one of the worst death numbers, death tolls in the world, you're still proud of your record.
Chief Medical Officer has made this point many times, and I think he's right. I think there will be a time to look on all of this and reflect, and when it comes to numbers, I think that there are ways that he said are only really possible to compare and contrast after the fact when we have all the data in. So I think, and there will be a time for that, and of course we should do that and be self-aware about that.
We should ignore the death numbers.
No, of course we shouldn't ignore,
right
but
now.
I think in order to make the comparisons that you're making, that we don't have all the data necessary to make those comparisons accurately at this point. But of course we should make them, no one is hiding from that fact. But if I look at the measures that we've put in place, in particular around supporting people's jobs, their livelihoods through this difficult time, making sure that their families have the support they need, making sure businesses can stay together, I do think those are significant steps that have made a real difference to people's lives. And we do have a plan to reopen our country, reopen our economy now, and we are making progress on that plan. As I said, that's what we're here today to talk about, so you can see the plan is working, and stores like this will be open across the country from next week. That shows that we're making progress, and people should have confidence in that plan.
But with the benefit of hindsight, could it have gone a bit better?
Well, I've been very clear, as have other ministers been clear, when faced with something of this nature, completely unprecedented, both in terms of the scale and the speed in which it was happening, is it the case that every single thing that we got perfectly right first time? Of course that's not going to be the case, and I think most people would look at that and say, fair enough. But
is there anything in particular that you look at?
I mean, even in my own economic interventions, I've been, as you've known, we've been iterating as we go. That the speed and the scale of which we've had to act has been unmatched, essentially, in modern time. So that means that I've had to change things as we go to make sure that the interventions that we put in place are getting to the people we want to get support to. And if that wasn't working first time round, then I've made changes that I need to make.
Okay, finally, Chancellor, obviously you'll have seen the protests in this country and in the US about Black Lives Matter, statues being pulled down. When you see that and when you kind of think through your own experience, what's your reaction?
As a British Asian, of course I know that racism exists in our country, and I know people are angry, they're upset, and they want to see change. But what I would also say is change doesn't come about through acts of vandalism or violence. That's not how you achieve real or lasting change. And what I would take a moment to recognise is, of course our story as a country isn't finished. It's a work in progress, and it always will be, and there's work to do. But I would take a moment to recognise the enormous progress we've made as a country from the time that my grandparents first arrived here, from the time that I was born and grew up. The work that has happened in the years before now has been tremendous, and everyone deserves credit for that. But that doesn't mean that there's not more to do. So of course there's more to do, and we will work hard at it.
But have you experienced racism yourself, and do you understand the anger a lot of people from that community are feeling?
Absolutely, I have. I have. Growing up, it stings in a way that very few other things have stung me. But the things that might have happened to me many years ago when I was a kid, I think are thankfully things that would not happen to me today, and that's because of the progress that our society and our country has made, and it's something that I'm very proud of as a country. But notwithstanding that, of course, there's always work to do. As I said, our story is not finished, but there's ways to bring about that change, and I have enormous respect for those who are doing that in a reasonable way that is not causing violence, but recognising the issues at stake.